Hi friends, this is the reading lesson for third grade. You need a pencil. You also need two different color highlighters if possible. If you don't have two different colors, you can use two different colored pencils or one highlighter and one colored pencil. And you need your booklet called Making Decisions. That is our new booklet that we're going to be working on for the next couple weeks. Once you have that stuff, you need to open to page 4. So we are going to read a story called The Fox and the Geese. And this story is considered a folk tale. And if you remember, a folk tale is a story that is typically passed down through word of mouth, but it is not true. So this is a fiction story. It's kind of a cute and little clever story. I think you will enjoy it. So as we are reading, we are going to stop and chat about some of the vocabulary in this story. Some of it can be a little bit challenging. And while you're reading, I want you to keep an eye out for the problem that is in this story and how the characters solve that problem. We're going to highlight that together in the end, and then you guys are going to write a summary. So if you are ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
Short Read 1. Remember to annotate as you read.
The Fox and the Geese by the Brothers Grimm. A hungry fox came to a meadow. He saw a flock of fine, fat geese. The fox smiled and licked his lips. He quietly crept up on the geese. Then he smiled again and said, "I have come at the right time. You are sitting together quite beautifully. I can eat you up one after the other." The geese cackled with terror. They sprang up and began to wail. Then they begged piteously for their lives. The poor geese were beside themselves with fear.
All right, so let's take a minute. Let's stop right there. And this word piteously right there. So you might have heard the word pity before. So if you want pity from someone, you want someone to feel kind of bad for you. So these geese are demanding pity. They're like, no, please don't eat us. Like we'll beg you. Okay, so that's what this word right here, piteously, means. They are just like, no, don't eat us. So by now you should know the problem. So keep that in your mind.
But the fox would listen to nothing. He simply said, "There is no mercy to be had. You must die." At length, one brave goose took heart and said, "If we poor geese are to yield up our vigorous young lives, show us a favor."
All right, so paragraphs 3 and 4, the fox is not listening, and he's saying, no way, I will not give you that pity, I will not give you that mercy. So then one of the geese says, if we poor geese are to yield up our vigorous young lives, show us a favor. So there are a lot of words here in this paragraph that might be kind of confusing to you. So let's take a look. So first, the word vigorous. The word vigorous means strong and healthy. So these geese are saying, don't take our strong, our healthy lives, right? We are
Die.
sorry. We are we should still be able to live, okay? Now, yield. What do you think the word yield?
Die.
What do you think the word yield means? So when your parents are driving in a car, they have to sometimes yield, which means they have to give somebody else the right of way. So they can go as long as it's clear, but they might have to wait for somebody else to go first. So the word yield means to kind of give up or give way. So the one goose is saying, if we poor geese are to give up our strong and healthy young lives, show us a favor. So they're asking for a favor here. Now, knowing what we know about this fox, do you think he's going to give them a favor? Well, let's see.
The fox, though his stomach was growling with anticipation, listened. The goose continued, "Please allow us one more song. That way we may die happy and free. After the song, we will place ourselves in a row so you can pick out the fattest to eat first."
Were you surprised? I, uh, excuse me, sorry about that. I was definitely surprised that he's actually going to wait, but they kind of made him a deal, right? They said, we'll stand in line and you can pick the fattest of us out to eat first. Okay? So the fox is like, all right, let's see.
This appealed to the fox. One plump goose would make the start of a good meal. "That is a reasonable request," said the fox. "Sing away. I will not eat you until you are done."
All right, let's quickly talk about this word right here called plump. What does the word plump mean? Think about that. If you're not sure, think back to the deal in paragraph 6. The word plump is a synonym for fat. Oops.
Very.
All right, so let's see what happens. This goose is going to start singing, and the fox cannot eat any of the geese until they are done.
The first goose began a good long song, repeating "Gaw, gaw, gaw, gaw," as she would make no end to her song. The second goose did not wait until her turn came. She too began singing "Gaw, gaw." The third and fourth geese followed her. Soon they were all cackling together, "Gaw, gaw." When the geese have finished their singing, the story shall be continued further. But at present, they are still singing without stopping, and that fox is still very, very hungry.
Oh my gosh, what a story, right? So the geese start singing and continue singing and continue singing. But the last paragraph in this story, it says, when the geese have finished their singing, the story shall be continued further. What does that mean? That this is technically not the end of the story, right? That technically the geese are still singing and Mr. Fox here is still hungry. He had to keep up his end of the deal. When they stopped singing, he could eat them, but they're still singing. Pretty clever there, isn't it? All right, so go ahead and grab your first color highlighter. I'm going to use like a pinkish color today. And we are going to highlight the parts in the story that kind of tell us the problem. There's a few different spots. So first we know that the fox kind of corners the geese, right? And he plans on eating them. So he quietly crept up on the geese and says, I can eat you one after the other. And the geese get so scared, they start cackling with terror. They beg piteously, and they were beside themselves in fear. This is all part of the problem, right? And we know this fox is not very nice, and he ignores them. And he says, there is no mercy. You must die. So all these parts play into the problem, right? Okay, so now I want you to grab your other colored highlighter, and now we're going to highlight the solution. Okay, so I want you to look back in paragraphs 4 and 6. Well, in paragraph 4, we'll start this part together. In paragraph 4, what does we know that one brave goose took heart, which means she kind of stood up and says, hey, why don't you let us do this first? So what is the plea? What does that goose ask for from the fox? Go ahead and reread paragraph 6 and highlight what that goose, wants the fox to let them do. They say, please allow us one more song. After the song, you can eat us, right? So let us sing for you, okay? So then what happens? Go to paragraphs 8 and 9. What happens? So we know that soon they were all cackling together. Maybe you highlighted a little bit more in here about each one of them singing. That's totally fine. Then we know that what happens to this story? The story never ends because they are still singing without stopping. And that fox is very, very hungry. Sorry, Mr. Fox. All right. What you are going to do and submit on Canvas, you are going to write a short little summary about this story. It should really only be about 1 or 2 sentences. We highlighted quite a bit more than what you will need to put in your summary. Your summary should quickly, clearly state the problem and the solution, but remember, not a ton of detail. So the problem is the fox wants to eat the geese, and the solution is that they sing a song to avoid being eaten, right? Because one of the clever geese came up with it. So make sure that you include those parts in your summary. So it just should be about 1 or 2 sentences. All right, friends, great job. We'll see you later.